Hello internets, this is BoneCarlos coming to you live from Ohana to bring you another StarCraft 2 commentary. This is like my 4th cast of the day and I am pumped. I'm lying. It's only my 2nd cast. Sorry for deceiving y'all, I don't know. Anyways, the players are going to be cRfenner spawning as the red Zerg. His opponent is going to be frostKU. Now, he was adamant when he uploaded this replay that Frost is his teammate and KU stands for killer unit. And my thought is fantastic. That's great. You're on team. I love it. And these guys are high level masters level play. Actually mid level, like 20, level 20, 15 or so masters level play. So congratulations on being a team. It looks like both these players are a team, but killer unit, pick a better team. Frost, I don't know. I've never heard anything about them. I don't know their strategies, their game, their win record, or anything. But whenever I think of Frost, I think of Frost, the villain that was in the original Blade. And things didn't turn out too well for him. Yeah, he had the upper hand for 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And then he just went kablooey. So I would rather Frost killer unit switch over to Team Blade, go over to Blade killer unit. I mean, it sounds even cooler if the Team Blade isn't out there. Create Team Blade and then beat up on the Team Frost because it's destined. You just can't lose. But anyways, Ohana is the map LE introduced in Season 7. Easy to secure natural expansion. Looks like a medium-sized ramp leading up to that natural expansion. And backdoor destructible rocks leading to your wide open third. And seeing as how there is very wide open areas of attack, many different avenues of attack, lanes of insertion, I would say this is automatically a Zerg favored map. But for some reason, Protoss seems to win on this map more often than not. By a small margin. I think it was like a 1.5 to 2%, so very insignificant. But I would have to say the reason for that would be it's very easy to wall off and forge fast expand here, and doing a 2 base quote unquote all in is very easy. And I guess if it doesn't work, you could always just expand to your third very easily as well. So I guess that's the reason why Protoss wins an extra 1.5 to 2%, and it looks like a cRfenner is just scattering around, make sure there's no kind of cheeky proxy pylons. He already has a spawning pull up. No Vespin geysers have been taken. 2 token Zerglings are being sent out, while at the same time Frost is already putting up his natural expansion. His photon cannon is finishing up. His gateway is about 50% done, and it looks like is quite a bit of a gap here, but a single pylon will finish off that wall off. And the Zerglings are just going ahead and being very active around the map, making sure there isn't any proxy pylon being put down. A favorite area is this area right over here, since you could warp into the low ground, and another area is definitely right over here as well. But Fenner was very active, made sure there wasn't any pylons being put down there, but there is a pylon being put down behind your natural third. Fenner does spot that. Yep, he definitely does spot that. It looks like he's pulling back his Zerglings, making sure that doesn't happen, and no photon cannons are put down. And if he actually puts his probe down back here and puts a cannon right here, he'll be able to save this probe. But no, he puts down the photon cannon at the front, positioning, and 2 more Zerglings are being built in response to that cannon rush, and another photon cannon is actually being put down as well. It looks like this photon cannon is going to be cancelled to save those minerals. 113 minerals were salvaged, so only 47 were lost. 37 were lost, and another cancel is happening. So he did lose a couple of minerals in that exchange, but it did force that single larva to be used up into Zergling instead of a drone, and that can be pretty big in Masters level play. Well, I wouldn't say pretty big in Masters levels play. I would say that would be pretty big in Pro level play, but that would definitely be an even exchange out of that, since a larva was used up, but then again a couple of minerals were lost, and a single zealot is going to go ahead and push forward and attack cRfenner. We actually saw a chrono boost happening on this gateway. It looks like the forge is going to go ahead and be used That Chrono Boost is going to be used on that Forge with a level 1 attack, along with a Stalker is going to be produced. So right now, nothing too crazy. Double Assimilator, pretty straightforward and centered, except that Chrono Boosting on that Gateway. Again, a spread on those Zerglings to make sure no other cheeky shenanigans are happening. But this Zealot is actually going to go ahead and pull back, since he saw those Zerglings do quite a little bit of a run by. Stalker is going to go ahead and push forward and going to go ahead and catch this Zergling off guard. A couple of more volleys will finish it off. Free kill for that Stalker, while this Zergling is still going to go ahead and scout around the map, going to go ahead and spread his Zerglings, and no response, no retaliation just yet by Fenner. Still no Zerglings are being produced, just heavily on the drone count. We already see 44 Harvesters, 46 for Fenner, 39 for Frost, so definitely once that third base was up and running, the drone count was jacked up significantly, but a proxy pylon is being put down by Killer Unit, and going to go ahead and push down with a single Stalker, a single Zealot, and this could actually be very dangerous for Fenner, especially since he's not producing anything else. He is producing 8 Roaches now currently, probably in retaliatory response to that little poke forward, but more than likely that was just instinctual. You want to get about a couple of Roaches around that 8-minute mark, since you know you don't want to be attacked. An early aggression, just like Frost Killer Unit is doing, and that was pretty much just an automatic timing for Fenner. Those Roaches do pop, so right now it's going to be Zealot versus Roaches, and with Micro it looks like these Roaches might actually win. The other Roaches are not anywhere in play just yet. They're finally streaming down the ramp, and it looks like those Zealots are going to focus fire down these Harvesters, going to try to do as much damage economically to those drones. Looks like perfect positioning by the Roaches, by the Queens, doesn't let that surround happen on those Zealots, but finally there's enough damage happening on the Queen that Fenner is forced to pull back and do the long alley-oop or rally, give him the slip. A couple more swipes might take him down. One more swipe would have done it, but no, the Zealot is taken down by those Roaches, and right now it looks like Killer Unit is put up against a little bit of a hard place. He does have plenty of sentries to wall this off with those force fields, with this wide ramp, so he's safe from attack just yet. It looks like he's going to go ahead and start nibbling away at those destructible rocks. He is researching Blink. He does have a Warp Prism in production, so good for him having that robotics facility, and those Immortals are going to be very, very useful, especially up against the Roaches, and especially if Fenner decides to go for a 12 minute max Roach army, 12-13 minute, give or take a few half seconds here and there. And looks like Killer Unit is a little bit of supply block. He's going to go ahead and he's going to be a supply block fairly quickly, especially if those pylons aren't put down immediately. They are put down, but he's going to miss a warp in cycle because of that, and especially if this pylon is spotted by Fenner. And it looks like he actually is spotted. That Changeling does walk past that Zealot. Shame on you, Zealot. You took a nap. You let a Changeling get past you and head on into your base. I would actually see Frost put down another pylon, just completely wall this off. And if you have been following my cast, you know what happens when the Zerg player does get those run-bys. I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago when a Zerg player was completely behind on the Protoss player on this map specifically, but a couple of run-bys just decimated the Protoss economy, and Protoss wasn't able to pull on, just wasn't able to pull back into the game. But we do see a nice little warp in by Frost. Going to go ahead and buy himself some time. Only a couple of Zealots were able to be produced, but it happens at exactly the wrong time for Killer Unit, especially since those Roaches did pop at exactly the right time. Fenner isn't worried at all, since he's sending his main army of Roaches into the mix, into the front lines, and this actually could spell doom for Fenner, since there are plenty of Immortals there to hold it off. And it looks like all those Roaches were on a move. A couple of free kills for Killer Unit, but there is a gap in that force field wall. Let's a couple of Roaches scream forward, but finally that hole is plugged up. A nice warp in again, and these Immortals did the damage necessary. 5 kills for one, 4 kills for another, and Fenner is forced to retreat while this Warp Prism is still in the mix. And look at the Zealots go. 6 kills already for one. Looks like another surround does finally finish it off, but looking at the workers killed count, 16 workers killed for Frost, so great play by Frost. Pretty much bought himself plenty of time, meaning he's still continuing to warp in those Zealots, trying to do as much damage as possible, but Fenner has the army necessary there to repel these Zealots, and looks like that finally the Zealots are just going to go ahead and meander out, trying to do as much damage as possible before they are sacrificed into the void. Frost is going to go ahead and start ramping up his economy yet again. Looking at the Harvester camp, we see 64 for Killer Unit, 64 Fenner, but that was a lot of Look, that was a lot of larva wasted on that latest drone in, mass drone in by Fenner. Right now he has a nice saturation on his third, nice on his expansion, but basically zero on his main. Looks like he is trying to take his fourth, but this warp prism is still in. Does Fenner even see this? Yes, he does. He knows it's there, but he's not too worried about it just yet. He's going to go ahead and leave a couple of roaches there for defense, but if Killer Unit actually had a DT shrine, would actually be pretty bad news. Finally, a queen is there. He's going to go ahead and start chasing away that warp prism. A couple of fresh warping of zealots. And it looks like if Fenner isn't careful, this queen could go down. A couple of more swipes, and that queen goes down needlessly. Finally, Fenner says, uh-oh, we have zealots again in the drone count, and I don't think this roach count might be enough to hold this off. A couple of roaches do go down, and finally the micro does occur, save a single roach, and another fresh stream of roaches are going to go ahead and save what is left of the roach army, but the damage was done yet again. Looking over at the worker kill count, a couple of more workers were killed, and immortals galore. Changelings are being picked off left and right. They are going to go ahead and be spread about, make sure no other bases are taken by Killer Unit, but now the Colossi are in a play, and I do not think there is a Spire there yet for Fenner. He does have double evolution chambers up for that double ups, but macro hatch is going down, but no Spire in the mix. And looks like the warp prism finally was forced to pull back, but he is still there just in case there needs to be a counter attack, but no Spire for Fenner. So Colossi are going to be very effective. No infestors, but there are going to be Archons morphed in immediately for that High Templar. And it looks like Psionic Storm hasn't been researched just yet. Where is that? Those Templar archives right back here. It looks like Psionic Storm isn't being researched, and right now Fenner is in a bit of a pickle here. He needs to go ahead and get that Spire up. He needs to get those corruptors for those broodlords. He needs to do drops of his own, harassment of his own, some sort of run by, because right now he is definitely behind. Looking at the income tab, the harvesters are pretty much equal. Income is pretty much equal, and the army count for Frost Killer Unit is very high. It looks like he's going to go ahead and push forward mass spine crawlers. It looks like they are going to finish in time. A couple of them will go down, but the rest will pop at just the right time. Infestors do put down infested Terrans. Only 2 spine crawlers are being put down and taken down. Force fields do block off the entire army of Fenner. Great force fields using the spine crawlers themselves as a wall. And finally, looks like the focus fire on the hatchery is going to go down. So the fourth is going to go down. Spine crawlers are going to go down with it. And the max exodus of those drones, Fenner is forced to pull back onto his natural third. But how many times can he retreat? And looks like I'm going to go ahead and do a natural run by, but there is going to go ahead and be a semi wall off here. These warp gates are going to go down. There isn't enough army there for Frost to be able to hold off. He does blink himself into a corner, so very nice. That's exactly what you want to do against these Zerglings, to keep the attack paths for those Zerglings at a minimum. A couple more gateways do finish up just in time, but finally the Zergling count is just too high. But the Colossi is there, and Colossi versus Zergling, I would go with the Colossi most of the time, and this counterattack by Fenner was very ineffective. Nothing really was taken down except that initial stalker count that was left there for defense. Finally, the last one goes down, but looking at the units lost, tab 150 for Fenner. 152 for Fenner, 63 for Frost. Resources does favor Frost Killer Unit. Yet again, another warp-in by Killer Unit. Harass. That warp prism has definitely paid for himself, especially in the economic damage. Looks like Killer Unit does focus fire down that spawning pool. Those zealots are going to go ahead and die an untimely death, but the damage has been done. No more Zerglings for Fenner. It looks like a mothership is going to go ahead and go up, and another counterattack by Killer Unit is going to go ahead and re-destroy this fourth base. And right now it looks like Fenner is in definitely a bit of a pickle. He does cancel it, save himself 75 energy. Overseer is there to watch and see exactly what's going down. A couple of Zerglings are going to go ahead and poke and prod at these probes, but there isn't enough DPS to take them down. And it looks like Killer Unit doesn't want to take any chance. He's going to go ahead and pull back after re-destroying this fourth base, and another warp-in, another fresh Zealot warp-in, and a great spot to put these Zealots in. Doesn't let that surround happen. Looks like that is mechanically demanding. Looking at the APM count, not really. 100 APM average for Killer Unit. Fenner is just giving himself a little bit of a tip of the hat to Frost, and that I could say as a Protoss player, that isn't really mechanically demanding. Just one warp in, send in his Zealots, and oh, I get it. Fenner was saying it in jest. It actually tickled my ribcage when I laughed. So very good for you, Fenner, for doing that little sarcastic reply. Trolled me very, very hard as I broke out in hives on that witty remark. Corruptor is going to go ahead and push forward. Looks like that Corruptor will go down. This fourth base for Fenner is up and running. This looks like this fifth is just about to be started, but we see Killer Unit already put up his fourth. Mothership is about to pop, so as soon as the Mothership pop, I'm going to go ahead and assume that Killer Unit is going to go ahead and push forward with his final attack, and he is going to be a-okay. That Mothership does finally warp, and it's going to go ahead and join up with the rest of the units, and another warp in by Killer Unit is going to go ahead and try to focus fire down this hatchery. The DPS is there. The cancel is forced. Fenner retakes it almost immediately, and this Warp Prism is just going to hang out here for just a little bit before turning back into transport mode and going around into the back of the third base for Fenner. And leg speed is finally being put down. A couple of more High Templar are being morphed in, and right now it looks like Killer Unit is definitely in a commanding lead. Fenner still needs to do the counterattack, still needs to do the counter run by, still needs to do something to pull himself and scrape himself into this match, but he's going to need to deal with this huge army of Killer Unit. Another fresh Zealot warping. Looks like he's going to go ahead and try to focus fire this greatest fire. This greatest fire is actually going to go down. These roaches aren't going to get there in time since it is tucked behind everything else. The greatest fire, it looks like nice transfuses, does manage to save the greatest fire, so good job for Fenner to managing to save it, but looks like the Broodlords were caught out of position. Vortex does pretty much drag everything into it. Fenner pushes most of his roaches, most of his infestors in there as well. An Archon toilet is possible with the amount of Archons on there, but Killer Unit isn't even worried. He's going to go ahead and actually going to go ahead and see if he's going to move them in there. There they go. Let's look at the food count, see what happens after a couple of volleys. 190 after the first one, 185 after the second one, 173, 165. That's what happens. That's the power of the Archon Talia. Blink Forward does manage to take care of most of these Broodlords. Focus Fire does happen, but another Fungal Growth does lock these Stalkers into place. But the power of the Mothership is just too high. Finally, a Neural Parasite on a couple of these Archons, but the Mothership is the one you want to Neural Parasite. And Fenner just leaves the game. That is it. Looking at the tail of the tape, it's 290 units lost, 23,000 resources for Fenner, 13,000 for Killer Unit. So great game overall by the Protoss player, and it just goes to show you the power of the harass. A couple of Warp Prisms, actually that was single Warp Prism that was back here for the longest time, pretty much won the game for Killer Unit. Nothing else really stood out in my mind. Yes, he did buy himself some time, got himself a great Death Ball. But really, that Warp Prism allowed him to get to that point. Pretty much kept the Zerg player on his toes the entire game. So that was it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if not, leave a comment down below on what I could do to make these more enjoyable for you. Also, if there's a particular game of your own that you would like for me to cast, leave a link to one of the major replay sites, and I'll be more than happy to take care of it for you. Other than that, this is BoneCarlos. I'm BoneCarlos. That other guy, that's not BoneCarlos, because I am BoneCarlos. I am in a good mood because I'm going to go get drunk in a little bit. I might even do a drunk cast after this. I don't know. Later, guys.